Hey, happy Mother Loving Friday. Welcome to another episode of Uncorked with Tea. I'm here with poet extraordinaire, J. Barrett Wolf. Yeah, that's right, poet extraordinaire. Check out his. So if you watch the live, then you've seen the breakdown of his resume, but we're going to go over that shit again. And again, it's Uncorked with Tea. So we say whatever the fuck we want, maybe keep your kids away from the show. So he is an accomplished poet and wordsmith. He's been published in Black Bear Review, Portland Review of the Arts, Long Island Sound, and so many goddamn more. He is a poet in residence at the Bundy Museum of History and Art and director at World Place, the Southern Tier Literary Center. And he holds a Bronze Medal of Valor from the San Francisco Police Department. We're going to get into that later. But
okay.
For now, welcome. Damn it. Always go the wrong side. Welcome, Jay Barrett. Welcome, Barrett, man. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay, boss. So you have been writing for God knows how long. How long have you been a poet? How long have you been writing?
Oh,
well, when did you start writing?
Years. I don't know, on the high side of 40 years, 45 maybe. I remember my first intentional poetic pieces were probably somewhere between 15 and 20 years old.
So do you remember the one thing that when you were younger, as you were starting to write, who was that one person who encouraged you to keep going?
Okay, I wasn't related to anybody like that. No, the family was not the place for that. I just always wanted to express myself somehow. In high school, I played guitar, and I wound up playing guitar as a singer-songwriter for about 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did that a lot, and I would write poetry also, but it seems like I would do one or the other, but not both at the same time. The music went on as the primary art that I was doing, and then what happened was about 15, 17 years ago, I got cancer of the tonsil.
Oh, shit.
Which is a pretty rare cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doctors were like, are you a heavy drinker? No. You a heavy smoker? No. Then we don't know what happened.
Shit.
But anyway, I got that, and I had the surgery for it, and some radiation. That was fun. I used to tell people, you go like 28 days, you go in, and it's only like 10, 12 minutes. You walk in, you lay down, they zap you, you go out. So I used to tell people I'll be over after I hit the tanning salon. Anyway, I couldn't sing for about 8 months after that. And during that period when I couldn't sing because my throat was healing, I realized all the effort I was putting into the mechanics of learning to play wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. I was at a stage where I was about as good as I was going to get without going and taking lessons from really good guitar players, and really investing a lot in the playing. And I didn't need that. I wasn't what I wanted. What I wanted was, I had sort of become a singer-songwriter because all the people I knew were singer-songwriters. I hung out in a whole world of musicians, and that was how you expressed yourself. And I realized, hey, if I just write, I'm not limited by the structures of songs. I'm not limited to rhyme and meter per se, although there is a rhyme and meter. Even with that, even when there isn't rhyme, there's meter that goes into how you express your language and how you express poetry. And of course, the other upside was I didn't have to hump a guitar around with me everywhere.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, it made transport real easier, much easier.
Do you have a preferred way of writing? Do you prefer pencils, pens? Do you have like a special book?
I mostly write on computer.
Really?
Yeah, I almost always, I'll sit down and I'll just start working. I'll just start typing. I'm going to test out other methods. I've started to collect old typewriters. So I'm going to see what it's like to try and compose on them. I literally just started. I've always liked them.
Mm-hmm.
And just in the last couple of weeks, I've started to do more research, and I picked up a couple of them today. Actually, earlier today, I drove for 2.5 hours to pick up a couple of typewriters.
That's dedication.
So I want to see what it's about. If not, I mean, they're interesting antiques anyway. Nobody makes them anymore,
right?
So that's fun. Just because I play around with antiques. I buy and sell stuff just because it's fun and I like it. I do a little furniture refinishing. I taught myself how to do that. But as far as writing,
hold up, you're not gonna skip over that. You taught yourself how to do furniture refurbishing? Like, how did that even happen? How did that?
Well, I had, before I got here, I had a house and I basically set up a shop, and the thing, you can learn anything you want now by going online and looking at YouTube, and it's like, how do I fix the finish on the top of this table? Well, here's 10 different videos of different ways, depending on what kind of wood it is and what kind of finish you want it to have. All of this, there's somebody that'll tell you how. And this, beyond that, you go around town and you ask people. You talk to people who do furniture work and you say, hey, how would I get that to do this? And they're like, oh, you do this and this and this. And that's people, if you give people the opportunity to talk, they'll talk. They will tell you everything they know.
Yes. Yes.
And they'll tell you a fair bit of shit they don't know, but that's another discussion.
You got to sift out the bullshit and just, find the lessons.
Right. But if you're talking about furniture, you get a lot less bullshit and a lot more just useful information.
So before we get into your first poem, I want to ask you a question about poetry. Have you ever had a poem put you into a trance? Like either your poem or someone else you heard. Have you ever had like a poem just take you somewhere? And what was that like?
Oh, God. I've heard so many amazing poems.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's hard to just say, well, this one out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the ones that boggle my mind are Pablo Neruda's poems. I am a huge fan of him. Between you, me, and whatever audience is paying any attention here, I would love to be the American Neruda. I write romantic poetry and I write I try to write sensual poetry as well as all the other political and social commentary and, and I read his work for the first time years and years and years ago. We were doing a reading in Westport, Connecticut, and the guy who was running our little group said, by the way, you're not doing your own poems. You're doing poems by other people. And of course, being the young, egocentric schmucks that we were, it was like, what do you mean we're doing other people's poems? And he said, yeah, you're doing other people's poems. And I was, what should I do? And he handed me Neruda's book, 20 love poems and a song of despair. And my head exploded. I read this book and it was the most gorgeous voice I had ever come across. Wow. The book is, of course, still in print and still available. It's floating around all over the place. He wrote what might be the most incredible, intense, amazing line to say to someone with whom you are enamored. I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Dude. Oh my gosh. Yes.
That. And I read this and I was like, that's what I want to be able to say.
Yeah.
And that's what powers a lot of my writing. I have several muses that I write about. I keep threatening to put out an entire book just called One for the Redhead.
We can definitely do that. Redheads need more love, man. Redheads need more love. Like, loved it.
It appears they're getting a fair bit, but all right. Yeah.
All right. So if you would, can we listen to one of your amazing poems?
Well, okay. Let me go look and see if I can find one of the amazing ones.
I doubt you can find any. Well,
don't,
yeah, as a poet,
don't.
I get it. Yeah, I know.
All right. Let's try and serious this up a little bit.
All right.
And in the vague realm of where we were. A little something. She knows a little something about longing, standing there in the piano bar with a call there. Wow. I'm just going to start that over.
Sure.
She knows a little something about longing, standing there in the piano bar with a tall, cool glass of, oh my God, please, setting a spark to the maybe this time heat reflected in her eyes. It's been a long while, and it's a long tick-tock walk in heels to a cold car. She's insulated with stoli, an attitude, and a writer's commitment to swim the river Styx and retrieve the damn coins herself if she has to. She knows a little something about longing, that fire-breathing desire that brews in the gut and moves inevitably south to where she's a stone's throw from lowering her standards. But she tried that once, and there are still some scars that ache when she's cold.
Damn. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Okay, so a stone's throw from lowering her standards, like that shit hits so hard.
I wrote this actually as a response to a poem that a woman friend of mine wrote. Mm-hmm. And this was sort of acknowledging one of the things that I hope for in my work is the acknowledgement of others, in this case, women, mm-hmm. and the experience that they have that hopefully I can have an inkling about. I can never know what walking through the world as a woman is like. I just can't, but I can hear and assimilate what I'm told. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. I don't want to assume that it works, but.
No, it does work. I really, the rhythm, I think, goes so well with the poem, like the taking us on that journey, man. I almost feel like it's kind of like on a canoe, like in a lake, like you're just like on this shit. Like that was really, really fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Oh, I've always liked this. This is one of my favorite poems because I thought it was really just, it does the job, that you want the poems to work. You want the poems, the joke is my poems are my children and I want them to go out and get a fucking job.
Yes. Yes. That would be really nice. If our poems,
if it's like, that's you want them to like go out in the world. You want people to actually be willing to give you some of their hard-earned cash as well as their hard-earned attention.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, I think it's possible.
It has to be, right?
Well, there are poets making a living as poets.
I mean, poetry has been around just as long as like words, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, we haven't died out yet, so we're doing something right. I guess. So I want to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is kind of like a fantastical question, so answer it how you will. Mm-hmm. What type of animal, real or fiction, would help you defeat your inner demons? You don't have to tell me what your inner demons are, but wow. If you had like an animal, real or fiction, to help you on that journey to defeat those demons, which one would you pick?
Wow.
I know. I didn't think about it because I wanted to answer it along with you. Because it's a really big question.
Yeah. I mean, that's not an easy question. You can do an off-the-cuff thing and say cats, but that's, but that's not really what this is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to face your inner demons with an animal at your side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think not even like the spirit animal sort of thing. That's not really what we're saying here.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking for a warrior animal in this case.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think I would pick like a monkey, like a little adorable monkey, because monkeys are very smart, and I think it'll be able to aid me in getting the information I need in order to defeat the demons.
I'm actually thinking Chewbacca might be good.
Right?
Something large with weapons.
God damn it.
Yes. Bring your hulking armed ass over here.
Listen, fucking come over here. I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
I know it's a really big question.
Here's a question I had never, ever considered.
I try to think outside the box, and sometimes I go a little bit far out. Yeah, so if you could, let's get into another poem, and then I have another question for you.
Okay. We will wander away from the romantic in this case. I have a poem that was recently published in a magazine called Shirim. It is one of my several poems that I've written about the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we're talking about a place called Babi Yar, which was a ravine outside the city of Kiev in the Ukraine, mm-hmm. where one day over the course of actually a couple of days, they marched about 23,000 people out to the edge of this ravine and machine gunned them to death.
Fuck.
And then they just basically buried them there. And the Russian authorities, Ukraine became part of the USSR. Mm-hmm. And up until probably 10 years, maybe 15 at the most ago, they did not acknowledge the place or put any memorial or anything. And interestingly, over the last 10 years, it's become a park. They've redone it and they have some acknowledgement. Anyway, there's not a lot one can say to introduce this. So here we are, the park at Babi Yar. It is the look of this dirt, the earth sounding gravely beneath black boots and low-heeled shoes. It is the kneeling of older trees over the abyss, sycamore and oak, sagging skin of bark and burl. The evidence of majesty and time spent watching. It is the infernal, impotent keening of the river, scraping its cries against shallows and shore. This earth, these trees, this river, a road within sight of the town, within earshot of the ravine. Spring will never warm this place, though green will rise from winter's ash and bone, new shoots leaning timidly, their roots sumptuously fed, reaching toward a cold sun. Here, the dead are not echoes. They can be heard dragging their feet on the moist ground, forging endless bitterness from the polished brass shells of the Kiev arsenal, where they made war on their own. Look now. The many grains of sand and earth, the land upholstered with benches, walkways, trees, how beautiful, the green and gold, the path to the waiting glen that begs the tidiness of forgetting.
Oh, man. That begs the tidiness of forgetting. Fuck. That is, wow. That was very good. That's
Thank
very,
you.
wow. So you said this line, I thought it was really fucking cool. The evidence of magistry and
And time
time
spent
spent
watching. Time spent watching.
That
You think about
line,
that.
yes, let's talk about that.
Nature, all of the things, all of the events. It doesn't matter what it is. The Holocaust, the various and sundry massacres that took place then, all the way up to George Floyd right now. There's a whole world of stuff that bears witness, not just the people and their cameras, but there were cars and phone poles and buildings, all of which observed this in their silent way, the way the trees at Babi Yar became witnesses. And even, they can't speak, and the buildings can't speak, and the ground can't speak, but it's there, and it's part of that is knowing that these places have borne this. They carry history.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So after you found out about
I'm a laugh a minute here.
Yeah. Have you ever started writing something like this, and you have to research this topic, and the more you research it, the more it hurts? How do you find the strength to just keep writing about this thing that's so fucking hard and scary and sad?
Well, I feel obligated. It's partially it's because I am culturally Jewish. I come from that background.
Mm-hmm.
So, when people talk about violence done to them culturally, I'm like, yeah, I get that. I am part of that. I'm a generation or more removed from it directly. My father used to talk about he and his brothers walking to school and getting into fights because people would pick on them because they were Jewish. I never had that experience. I was an adult before I heard somebody make a religious slur.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different for me. And I observe, obviously, other people whose experiences are very different from mine and have had to endure that since they were kids. And I hadn't, but I get the connection. It runs in me to understand that nobody should be treated like this, that you don't steal other people's lives. That's not how this is supposed to work. It's not how any of it's supposed to work. And so I delved into it because it's, in part it's my history. Now, I don't know the specifics. We've never gotten good information on where the family came from before about 1900.
Mm-hmm.
They came over on the boats to Ellis Island and all the standard stuff that you read in the history books. But we don't know clearly where they came from and what their experiences were back before that. So it's not a literal oh yeah, Uncle Shmuel from wherever kind of thing. That I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I get that my people came from Europe and got their fair share of abuse, to borrow the line from the song. And so I investigate. I want to know. I want to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just grasping what fascism is and how people can get to that place where they can kill without remorse.
How?
And watching people in the United States connecting to that. It's like we fought against Nazis. My father did it. Most of the parents or grandparents of
Mm-hmm.
the people we talked to fought against Nazis. So when people say they're Nazis here, you just sort of awestruck. How can you even be that? And then to look at me, it's like, well, you're Antifa. It's like, yeah, that's anti-fascist. That should be the default position for everyone.
Especially in America. It's kind of like what we fought for.
Yeah.
Like it's what
Yeah,
we do.
we fought these bastards once, and now it's like, how is this okay? How do you get to that place? And that's absolutely a kind of privilege.
Mm-hmm.
That's a privileged perspective when you can say, I am entitled to lethally hate someone else.
Lethally hate, yes.
Yeah, they're not just like, this is not like, yeah, I don't like Trump. Okay. If he drops dead, I won't be upset. Okay. But I'm not saying we need to gas him. We need to execute him.
That's too much.
And these people are saying, if you say you are a Nazi, what you're saying is there are all these groups of people, and as far as you are concerned, they should be killed.
Yeah.
And nothing short of that. You can't be like, I'm only a little Nazi. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
Not a thing. You're either it or you're not. Like,
you're in it or you're not. And if you're in it, I am not your friend.
Can't be. Absolutely can't be.
No shit.
So, I have another question for you. It's kind of like it's a statement, but I'd like to talk about it and just see where the conversation goes. So the statement of courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being scared, but doing it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
How do you think, how does that work? If you're a person who is afraid to do whatever it is, how do you find that initial courage to just fucking do it anyway? Like, where do you think that comes from within the human spirit?
I have been wrestling with that since forever.
Same.
I spent far too much of my life as a fear-based life form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, afraid of all sorts of things, afraid of failing, afraid of screwing up, afraid of getting it wrong, whatever it happened to be. Mm-hmm. And that wound me way too tight.
Yeah.
I mean, I went and did like therapy because I had a girlfriend who said, you really need to go to therapy. And she was right. She was absolutely right.
Yeah.
And because I was so busy protecting myself. And this has to do with upbringing, has to do with the kind of family I grew up in. They talk about ACOA, adult children of alcoholics, which is not actually necessarily about, my mother didn't drink ever. My father drank occasionally, but he was not like, it's not like the sort of bad cliche of drunk all the time shit. But they were emotionally in that sort of state where you learn to read the room, you learn to walk in and have to figure out, can I say or do what I want to do without upsetting somebody, without getting yelled at, and if you grow up in that, you get really good at reading the room, but you also learn how not to say anything controversial ever.
Yes, you grew up very much the same.
And what that leads to is the classic situation. You're with your significant other, whoever that might happen to be. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do? Well, how about let's go out. Let's go to dinner. Okay. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Anywhere is fine. All of that is what's left over from that. It's like you have opinions. You care about what you eat, but you don't ever, it doesn't occur to you to say anything other than it's okay, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Not because you want to be accepted. And it took forever for me to learn. Open, honest, straightforward, forthright. That is how you be in the world. And the funny thing is, when you start practicing that, the world doesn't come to an end.
Really?
The world doesn't crash down around you and everybody doesn't run screaming, because what they're waiting for from you is to say, I have this need, I have this desire, I have this want. It's negotiable. I'm not telling you you have to do what I say, but I'm expressing what I genuinely want or don't want. And then I'm not carrying around resentment because I didn't say what I needed to say. So yeah, courage is absolutely doing it anyway. You know, and I told you, well, I not only do I have the Bronze Medal from the San Francisco Police Department.
Oh, that's where I was going, sir.
Well, do you want to do this or shall I?
Yes. No, I want you to do this. No, go for it.
I spent a year as a San Francisco police officer. I did that because one day I woke up while I was in San Francisco as a street musician playing on Fisherman's Wharf and Ghirardelli Square with hair down to the middle of my back. And I got up one day and said, what would be the most interesting, challenging, difficult job that I could possibly do? And sure enough, police officer was like, yeah, that would be a little challenging, I think. So I went down to the Hall of Justice and filled out a postcard and said, let me know when the test is. And I took the exam. And 9 months later, I got a letter from the city that said, congratulations, you are in the 145th San Francisco Police Department Academy class.
Wait, what? You just had to take like a written test? Like they didn't see you?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if they didn't. Yeah, they do a background check. They give you a 35-page form to fill out.
Okay. Background. All right. Well,
but got to remember, I was from the East Coast, and they're not going to send like guys out to investigate. They make a couple of phone calls. They check the National Crime Database, and it's like, if you're not a wanted criminal,
don't care.
Yeah, actually, I had gotten an appearance ticket for trespassing in a federal building about 3 months before I went into the police academy. They didn't care about that either.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. So I went in there thinking, wouldn't it be nice to help people? And the other part was, I wonder what courage is and whether I have any.
Could you say that last part again? I wonder what courage is and what?
Yeah, a little. I was wondering what courage was and whether I had any.
Ooh.
And the funny part is, I don't think I could answer it that much better now than before, because it really is just sort of a doing it anyway thing. It isn't like you do whatever you do and a switch gets flipped and it's like, yep, I'm courageous now. That's not how that works. You just do your life and you do what's in front of you, whatever that happens to be, and you make some choices about how you're going to do them. But you're just still, no matter what we do, we're still us. We are the sum total of everything that we've ever done and everyone we've ever interacted with. And that's all there is. That's being poets is let's narrate everything.
Yes. Yes.
And so I don't even talk about courage very much. I have not written very much about the experience in the police department because it was really stressful. Oh my God. And I didn't realize how tweaked I got doing that job because it was so outside of my experience. No family. It wasn't like anything in that I just out of the blue said, I'm going to go do this. Just
on a Wednesday, just like,
that was pretty much, it might have been Wednesday. I don't remember. But that was, I decided I was going to challenge myself. And that's one of the things that I observe about life is that for me, it's all about go find something new and interesting and do it. Go investigate, go enjoy, go create.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is.
That's it. Sorry about the dog barking. There's someone across the street, and he is not happy about it. Yeah, this is
Yes,
his block.
but you are protected.
Yes, this is his block
More or
and
less.
nobody else. Everyone should know and understand that. So, how did you get the Medal of Valor? How did that happen?
That happened in what is called, was called back then in San Francisco, a boyfriend beef.
Oh snap!
Downtown in San Francisco, in the Tenderloin, there are what they call SROs, single room occupancies. You know, the small, cheap, rent a room kind of places.
Gotcha.
We get a call from a guy. It says, we get there and he's like, he's up in my room and I want him out of there. And it's, so they had a falling out. And my partner and I are like, well, whose name is on the lease? Says it's his. Okay, we can tell him to leave. He's trespassing. So we go upstairs, and my partner is about 6 inches shorter than me, and he tries kicking the door, and it doesn't move. I'm like, I got this. I shoulder the door. I hit it with my shoulder. The door opens about this far. The guy has stacked everything in the room against the door. So we sort of shinny and slide in. And he's standing there, and I'm young, I'm the trainee, and my partner looks at him and goes, "That was really stupid." And I'm like, okay, so diplomacy's maybe not what we're doing. So this guy he's not armed, there's nothing going on, and he heads straight for the window. Now, out the window, and he's hanging outside the building. Now, you have to understand that the mayor has already informed our academy class that there have been too many car wrecks driving around San Francisco. And if anybody else's car gets hurt, you're going to walk. This is bad because we are parked on that side of the building, and I'll be goddamned if I'm going to let this asshole drop on my car. Okay. So we lean out the window. We go out and we're leaning out the windows, grabbing this guy. By this time, the boyfriend has arrived and is holding my partner by his belt, which is slowly sinking in the west. So what you've got here is the Marx Brothers rescue.
Oh my God.
Okay. We get him in the window. And he's still wrestly a bit. So I sit on him, we cuff him, we take him to Mission General Hospital for a 5150, which is the penal code in California for a 72-hour psychiatric hold.
Oh yeah.
Because if you try to go out the window, you're going to Mission General.
You need some talk time.
Yes.
Yes.
And normally I write all the reports because that's what you're doing when you're a trainee. This time my partner is like, let me write this one. I'm like, okay. I've been writing reports all month. I'm fine with that. And sure enough, we get a memo from the captain that we did a great job. And those memos are called an attaboy, as in attaboy. Yeah. And 9 months later, I was awarded a Bronze Medal of Valor from the San Francisco Police Department for risking my life in the saving of this guy, who shall remain nameless because I have no idea who he is.
I mean, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
So you saved this guy's life. I mean, saved your car as well, but you saved this guy's life.
Yeah. But it wasn't a conscious act of, oh, we're saving this guy's. It was the guy went out the window. We got to get his ass back in. You do what's in front of you.
Like that split second kind of thing. Like,
yeah, there's no like in-depth analysis of what this means. You're just like, the guy, he'll die if he lets go. Yeah. We're going to stop him from letting go.
Yeah, window go.
It didn't have any kind of thought component about what it meant, in terms of that, which is probably why they give medals for that stuff. Because it isn't about you sitting there going, ooh, I can do this heroic thing. You just do it. Just do it.
Did you think about that later, like that night or later in the week? Like, damn, I literally risked my life for this guy whose name I don't even know. Like, did that come up?
Not so much. I mean, I didn't think of it. I mean, it didn't seem as risky to me as it read in the report. I mean, we're leaning out the window. It's not like I'm hanging out and he's holding my ankles or anything. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't, so I didn't feel like I was at grievous risk of my life. I was just doing my job. That was the job at the time, was getting the jackass in the window.
Isn't that like literally what every superhero says? Not that you are a superhero, but
Please
like
don't
when you
do
watch
that.
superhero movies, like that's the first shit they say, right? I was just doing my job.
Because that's all it is. And that's the thing, is being human is just doing the thing.
Whew. Say
And
that again.
being human is just doing the thing.
Yeah.
We put all this weight on, look at what so-and-so does. And I think it's more heroic to do long-term hard work than these sort of instant acts of heroism. I think Doctors Without Borders is more heroic than anything I did. I think the people who care for others at length, the people who bring water into the desert for the people who are crossing the border, are doing more heroic work than I did. And nobody's giving them frickin' medals.
True.
So true. There. Ha.
Ooh. Okay, do you know what initially like drew you to poetry? Because I started writing out of spite.
That's an awesome reason.
Yes. My brother told me I couldn't. I wanted to prove him different. And then I've been writing ever since.
There you go. I hung around with musicians, and so songwriting and poetry actually predated songwriting, because I remember writing poetry in my adolescence, definitely. I don't know. I have a few notebooks lying around from way the hell back then. I don't know where they are now, because I'm in the, half of my stuff's in boxes. It was just the sort of stuff you say to yourself because you got no one else to say it to. I was astonishingly not competent as a, like guy in school. I had a miserable time in high school. I hated it.
Really?
I was bullied. I had to actually, I taught myself to keep my head up and look at eye level at people. I had to teach myself that. And when I did that, people stopped fucking with me. When you carry yourself like you're not afraid, they go find somebody who does. For when I was walking around looking down and looking like I was afraid, I got bullied. I got bullied by people who were this high, came up to my chin, because that was where I was, when I was 14 or 15, somewhere in there.
Wow. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I wrote about stuff, just, and probably early on in the, oh, look, there are girls, at the point that you start noticing other people in a not, what's his name? Not platonic way. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. And I was incredibly shy. And so I would just, write stuff and say, wouldn't it be nice? And nothing, most of it's just awful, just awe-inspiringly bad.
Right there with you. Yeah.
The early stuff. And then every once in a while you go through the books, and every once in a while there'll be a line like, whoa, I wrote that? Like, something will be good. And it'll surprise you. But mostly it sucked.
Right? Yeah. I look back at my old stuff and I was just like, girl, it was not that serious. Like, oh my God.
It's funny. It's hard as poets, because we're always about the new babies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the
Yeah.
stuff we just wrote. It's like, you know, when I'm planning for this, the first thing I do is, here's the last 3 things I wrote. I'm going to read them. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. You're going to get up in front of people, and you don't trot out stuff you haven't tested and stuff that hasn't gone through some rounds of, hey guys, I have a critiquing circle that I'm a member of.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring a poem, and everybody has a copy. We send them to everybody, and then you read it aloud. And we've been Zooming this for the last year. We used to go to a restaurant and sit and have food and talk about poetry.
That's nice.
And then so each time, every person, we analyze one poem from each person in the group, which is great. People, it's a peer group. I trust them. Nobody expects you to make changes just because they say so. So it's really relaxed. Excuse me, really relaxed. And that's great, where you can actually have somebody make suggestions and say, hey, if you try this, it'll work better. And, you know, so the temptation is not to just toss out everything you've just written to the first audience you can find.
Yes.
You know, so some of this it's one of the things I like to remind people in terms of performance is there's a reason people play B-17 on the jukebox over and over. People listen to songs they like. If you've got poems that people like, when you go and you stand in front of a new audience, you do your top 10 hits. You don't experiment on people who do not know you. You take like the 3, 5, 7, 10 pieces that you know from past experience absolutely work, and that's what you bring to a new audience. You blow them away with your best material, and then you can do anything you want.
Nice.
But you got to blow
that foundation.
But you got to blow them away first.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I actually grew up in the same town. I'm from Freeport, New York as well.
Yes, indeed.
I haven't been back to Freeport in close to a decade now. It's been a really long time. When's the last time you've been back?
Well, it's been, I haven't been down there since COVID, so it's been over a year. A couple of years ago, I was down there. Well, the thing is, we sold my mom's house in Freeport. So now my brother lives in Wantagh. My other brother lives in, where did he move to this time? Somewhere out near 110. These are words that none of you are going to know, but T knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes. What's up, Rashonda? Good to see you, girl. Thanks for hanging out with us.
And so I've probably been 1.5 years, 2 years since I was down in that vicinity. I've still got a few friends in Freeport. But it's been a long time. I don't much care. I left the island and I have not missed it for a heartbeat.
Right? Do you feel bad about that? About like not missing your hometown? Or do you just whatever?
Yeah. Okay. I grew up there. I've never considered it like a hometown. It's the hometownness is a fact, but it's not a feeling.
Yes. And I left so early. I left at like 19, 20. Not 1920, but I was like 19 or 20
I know what you
years
meant.
old.
I know what you meant. No, I was I was the oldest son, and I was in the habit of wandering off. My mom got used to the idea that it's like, he'll be gone for a couple of weeks, he'll come back.
That's the thing.
Long about 25, I think, I started being gone, like finding other places to live. I ride motorcycles, and I learned to do that in Port Jefferson. Friend had a bike up there, and I stayed up there one summer, and he taught me to ride.
Oh, cool.
And that's nice. North Fork is beautiful. Go out to North Fork. It's really just, and now, in the last 10, 15 years, what's happened is they've got vineyards out on the forks, and it's amazing out there now. They have all these they have wineries out there now. It used to be potatoes, now it's wine. Yay.
Yay. Before we get into your last poem, When
Yes.
you and I were talking before we started the live stream, you mentioned that you were part of a Highway Poets Bikers Association. Could we
The,
please talk about that?
I am a member of the Highway Poets Motorcycle Club, the International Association of Published Bikers. We travel and we write and we perform, and we've done all of those things, and we've done it for, God, I've been involved with that for 15 or so years, 20 years. I'm not sure. Yeah, it got to be 20 now.
Are you taking applications? Like, I want to ride.
Okay, well, the requirements for being in the club was you have to own a motorcycle. It's not, it's not, there is no hangers-on thing. If you don't own a bike, you can't be in the club.
I got a 10-speed or no?
Not that kind of bike. Yeah, they were pretty, like, they didn't want it to be just, it wasn't like a club where it was just everybody. It was for, people who actually rode motorcycles, including the women, by the way. It's not just guys. And we, of course, there is a volume of biker poetry called Rubber Side Down, the Biker Poet Anthology, which was published a number of years ago by Archer. It's not available anymore, I don't think. Although, at the point that we do fundraising, we're going to do probably do an online fundraiser for the Literary Center, WordPlace, the Southern Tier Literary Center. And one of the things you can get for donating will be copies of Rubber Side Down, because we do have a few of them lying about. We're trying to find interesting things that you can't get other places, because that gets people to donate.
Oh my God. Whenever that happens,
anyway,
like, hit us up. Like, we would.
Sure, absolutely. Oh, believe me, everybody on Voices of Poetry is going to know about this.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we basically, I've got written biker poems. We have a whole genre that we do, which is called baiku, which is, of course, haikus about motorcycling. Yeah, so we do that. We're actually working on a second volume to follow up Rubber Side Down, because it's been, 10 years since that came out. And of course, Rubber Side Down is the greeting that you say to other bikers, which is as in, keep the rubber side down, tires on the road.
Don't fall. Oh my gosh.
Right. So, of course, the next volume would be the rest of that, shiny side up.
Oh, that sounds bad.
So we're just in the process of pulling together three of us who are old time members, 20 years or so in the Highway Poets, are probably going to put out a volume. Mostly it's going to be our work, and we may invite some other people, but that's something in the works over the next year, probably.
Oh, that's badass. All right, sir. Let's get into this last poem.
Well, what it is a pair of poems, because they're short.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah.
And this is getting back to the sort of the range of more tactile poetry, he said.
Oh.
The first one, Courting the Librarian. I want to read the poem you are. Stroke your soft, hard paragraphs. Leave pundits' kisses sharp on your subject, beneath your predicate. Split your infinitive. Draw panting breath inspired by your dangling participles. Creep softly around your adjectival phrase and be consumed by your free verse.
Woo-wee! Okay, first of all, I want to read your poem. Read the poem you are. That right there. That opening line. That opening line just had me. Oh, okay. I'll stop interrupting. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. No problem. I used to live with the librarian. That's where that came from.
Wow. She's good at what she. Never mind. I'm done.
And yes. And something in a somewhat different but somewhat the same vein. Something hot. The radiator can't say enough in the hissy fit language of steam about how jealous it is of you. It doesn't arch its rippled spine with pleasure. It just sits there, damp gloves drying atop its deco frame, unaware of the heat we enjoy as you teach caliente to be a verb.
The fuck? Yo. Yo, okay. Hissy fit language of steam, man. Oh my god. Is there another one?
Another what?
Is there another poem? Is that it?
Oh, I got lots of poems. I mean, those are the two I had planned for the moment. You want me to pull something else up?
Wow. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Give me a second. Let me go hunting.
Take your time. That was so much fun, and like the imagery that goes with that. Like you can see the radiator. You can see the steam. You can almost see it rising out of the radiator, and then the double entendre mixed with that is just fucking fun.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Hold on, I got to put my glasses on to see what the freaking computer says. This hot Latina lady.
Yeah, caliente is a verb. I can't even. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, I speak reasonable, if not outstanding, Spanish. So I like to wander between. I have several poems where I use Spanish words. Anyway, this is. I hope you'll like this one. This is called Italian Broad.
Oh, all right, let's do it.
For Jay. Someday you're going to be an old Italian broad with a grand set of curves and an evil eye or two. The crock on the stove will boil all day while you craft vexations and blessings on the back of old pizza shop placemats. You will remain fetching in grandiloquent earth-toned skirts, turning the heads of seasoned men, but they won't matter. You will still be strega, woman of bewitchment, flirting through the night and driving the young men wild, your passion and fury causing storms both great and small that bear your name through a perennial season of hurricanes, typhoons, and carnality. Oh, yes, you will still be the choicest sin of the flesh in the eyes of whatever gods are feeling randy that day. Your breasts will rise and fall like meteors and thunder, while in a catacomb beneath the ages of Rome, there will be a grotto carved in stone the color of rust and dedicated to every one of your lips.
God damn it, Barrett. Wow. So Rashonda said, "Oh yes, I needed this in my life, sis. Glad I caught your show. He's awesome."
Thank you.
Yes.
Tell her thank you. She can see me. Thank you.
She can see you. You are. That was. Here's to you, sir.
Thank you.
Wow. So we're almost out of time. Well, we can go as long as you want, but I have a question that I have to ask you.
Please.
So I really enjoy your imagery. I really enjoy your poetry, and mostly I enjoy the rhythm of your poetry. So I want to know, when you're rehearsing for a new poem, rehearsing to perform it, do you rehearse according to the rhythm or according to the words? How do you
I have trouble imagining any way of disconnecting them. There's a flow. I mean, we were talking about earlier about the meter in music. There's a meter to the way this stuff delivers. I am not classically considered, like a slam poet or a performance poet. But I've done that. I've actually won a couple of slams.
Not surprised.
And it's really weird to win a slam as the oldest guy in the room.
Do you
Okay.
really just pop your collar like bitches?
No, I wish I could be that full of myself at length, but I can't. You know, I can be full of myself for 5 minutes alone, but I can't do that in public. Anyway, it's hard to explain. I mean, you know, it's essentially I've been performing my whole life. I grew up around people for whom the gig when you were hanging out was funniest and fastest, the quickest funny response to whatever. And I did that. I'm always responding to stuff with, you know, it's just how my mind constructs. Humor is a very serious thing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do it all, you know, and you really have to practice, and you really have to learn how to invert, how to change things so that they're amusing or funny or shocking. And that's kind of the same thing that applies to poetry. You know, the ending of this poem, and dedicated to every one of your lips, know that I thought real hard on that because of all the possibilities inherent and how that's going to sound to the audience. And I keep coming back to, it works. It does what I want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a little bit of that sexy weight that you want without being blunt. You know, it's the cherry trees thing that I'm aspiring to with that. And the, you know, being able to say you're the choicest sin of the flesh in the eyes of whatever gods are randy that day. That's just, it was a joy to think that up. Mm-hmm. Because you want to say, that's the other thing, is I want to say this about women. Mm-hmm. I mean, every one of these things, I have a particular woman in my head when I'm writing them. Mm-hmm. You know, and that doesn't mean I've ever had a relationship with them necessarily. They may be friends of mine, or they may be somebody I, you know, would like to have a relationship with. But that's not it. It's all about longing. A long time ago, I met somebody and really fell for her, and she was not having it. She wanted to be friends. And most of the time when you are attracted to someone, at least I find in my life experience, if they're not interested, it's painful to hang around. So you're like, thank you very much, goodbye.
Yeah.
What I wanted to learn from this, I decided to hang out. And I decided to hang out because I wanted to know what longing meant, what it meant to be around someone who brought out this feeling of want. And you absolutely know it's not going to change. You're not going to get what you want in the immediate sense. But what you can find there, what I found there, and what informs a lot of my writing of this kind of poem, was how much the well of longing that you can carry, that you can feel, and you can connect to, that doesn't require that you be angry or upset or catty with someone, but just saying, you know, I have this love and I'm going to find a way to express it, and I'm going to dig down and find it. And that's what the kind of driver for a lot of my romantic poetry, and not in the academic sense, but in the, you know, day-to-day, what regular people mean when they say romantic. You know, I got warned not to use the term romantic by academics because they have a whole different definition for it. Mm-hmm. It has to do with very specific time periods and not what we're talking about. But anyway, that's, you know, this is, I love the idea of longing, and the sort of, that's a pool I like to swim in.
Oh my God. That's so cool. So Rashonda said, yes, she put an exclamation point on it. So just want to let you know. And she said, tell him the right one about me. And she said, what you just said was deep for real.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right.
I have to know more about you than your name to write about you,
Yeah.
but okay.
No, just Rashonda Parker. There you go. No, you should definitely know more about her than that.
Oh,
She's a wonderful human being.
don't be getting people in trouble.
I know, right? All right, folks. Thank you for hanging out with us for this wonderful hour of poetry with J. Barrett Wolf. He is an accomplished poet and wordsmith. You can find him. I got you. You can find him. He is a poet in residence at the Bundy Museum of History and Art and director at the Word Place and Southern Tier Literary Center. And you can find him on Facebook. And hey, J. Barrett, if you have any other socials or any other upcoming events that you want to push?
No, no, not at the moment. I actually, you were my upcoming event, and now it's happened.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Guys, we will see you next week. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. Please drive safely.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been great. It's been way fun. And I'm amazed. We filled up an hour and it was just like awesome.
Just awesome poetry. So amazing.
Thank you.
Yay. All right, you guys, have a good week. Remember, hurt people, so keep an eye on your pain. Stay safe. Godspeed. We'll see you next week.
Take care, folks.
Deuces.
Done.